Peace. Hotep, Uncle Jasaneb, Assalamu alaikum. What it do, black people? Hope everyone's having a fantastic day, and this coding class will just continue to make your day more and more fantastic. So, I want to jump right into it because I want to make sure that we cover all of the short videos that I want to watch today, and you all have a chance to absorb it and maybe even do a little bit of work. So, let's make sure we open up idle because we're going to need some access to some Python coding capabilities. So open up your idle. Also open up your solo learn. And we're going to basically continue what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks, which is basically going back over the basics and making sure everyone has a firm foundation before we get into the more hardcore coding aspects of Python. So, um, I'm giving you all a chance to open up idle, open up idle, open up idle. Good, good, good. I think a few people have it by now. I think we're waiting on probably one or two people. Okay, good. Hopefully you got that open. Hopefully you got your solo learn open. I'm going to let you know what we're going to be going over today, and then what we're going to be going over next week. Or I'm sorry, later on this week, on Thursday. Remember, I am uploading another video with another assignment attached to it. There won't be an assignment attached to this video. The assignment for this video will be up by Wednesday, and then by Thursday, another video will be up, and then there will be an assignment attached to that one as well. This class, we're going over print, strings, and variables. Now, the people who have been going along with it, the class for the first, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 weeks, however long we've been going at this, um, you might be yawning on this part, like, oh, I already know this part. Oh my goodness. Yep, yep. You may have it, but I would like for you to go back through the basics to make sure that we're solid. These are things that we're gonna use very consistently when we get our Raspberry Pis, and we're gonna make our Raspberry Pi do all kind of things. But we have to know these basics. We got to get these down. So we're gonna be watching a few videos here. We're going to be watching, I think, 3 videos about variables and then one about print, the print function, which we also had in the last class. So we should have these things down pretty hardcore by the end of the week. Don't forget, this is a video on Monday. Then you have another video on Thursday. This video, the assignment for it will be up by Wednesday, and the assignment for the Thursday video should be attached right to it. So that's how we're going to do this thing here. Again, hope everyone's having a great day. Let's go ahead and dive into these Python waters and go from there. So this first video, do I want to do this one first or this one first? Now, I'm going to warn you. This video right here, uh, this guy's voice is a bit monotone, meaning he sounds like the red eye guy where he talks like, oh, yes, we are coding and these are variables, and I'm going to teach you about variables and Python and da da da. Right? So his voice can very easily put you to sleep. But I like for us to listen to these kind of people because believe me, to really get the knowledge that we need and that we want, that we have to have in order to be a productive people, comes from very boring sounding folks. The real deep knowledge, that root knowledge, that knowledge that'll really turn you into a very powerful person. You're either going to be reading it or you're going to be listening to very monotone sounding people. Everybody is not charismatic. Everybody is not going to make very complex things sound awesome and great and easy to listen to. So that was this guy. He's going to be a little monotone. And this video, which right now just looks like a white screen, but this video, he's going to be talking about variables by a guy who, He sounds pretty upbeat. He's cool. He's cool. And then there's a video here. I'm gonna have to move my screen, but anyway, this is the site that I pay for that teaches me all kind of coding sites, and it's awesome. And you only can see part of my screen. Don't worry about it. And then it's gonna be, and I think he's going over variables. And then this one here is gonna be going over the print function and strings. So let's go ahead and get started. Which ones do you all want to do first? You want to do the monotone guy, the red eye guy? I'm asking questions as if you can hear me, but that's okay. Indulge me. So is it this guy? This one? This website is called Team Treehouse. Let me move my screen so y'all can see it. How do I grab this box? See? TeamTreehouse.com. And that's the thing there. That's the little play button I'll be hitting. And y'all, this is the space that you'll be watching the video. Matter of fact, we're going to start there. Let's do it. Hopefully you all have settled in for class and you got your Python coding thinking caps on. And we're going to go ahead and get started here. This one's going to be talking about naming things. Toward the end of it, he's going to refer to something called workspaces, which is, you don't have to worry about that. You have idle. Idle is basically going to be your workspaces. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Talk to us, Mr. Kenneth, whatever your last name is. Kenneth such and such. Love.
One of the hardest problems in programming is naming things. You'll find yourself increasingly worried that you haven't named things cleanly and clearly. Luckily, Python doesn't mind if we use long variable names. Name things so that you'll remember what they are. The more obvious your variable and function names are, the more quickly you'll be able to code and make cool things. Python also, of course, lets us delete variables. Those of you who have experience with other languages might be wondering about memory management in Python. Here's the good news, you don't have to. Most of the time, Python's built-in garbage collection, which cleans up behind you, will do a good enough job to keep everything moving smoothly. We create new variables with the equals sign. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the course, creating a variable puts the name on the left onto the value on the right. Or if you want to think about it the other way, it puts the value into a box with the left-hand name on it. Any variable name can point to any value, so we don't have to think about making special types of variables to point to, say, numbers or strings. It's not a common practice to use any sort of notation on variable names either, so don't worry about using an S for a string variable or anything like that. Now that we've talked about the basics, let's go make some variables and get rid of a few in workspaces. Variables in Python are almost confusingly simple. You pick a name that's made up of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and underscores. You can't use hyphens, spaces, or any non-alphanumeric characters. So you can't use an exclamation mark or a dollar sign. You also can't start the variable name with a number. So after that, you come up with your name, you use an equal sign, and then you assign whatever you want it to be equal to on the other side. So for instance, favorite fruit could be apple, and favorite number could be 42. So I have a name on the left, and I have an equal sign, and I have a value on the right. And then we can go back to those variables anytime we need them by using their name again. Like to print my favorite fruit, I would say print favorite fruit, apple. I don't use quote marks around the variable name or anything like that, just the name itself. And unlike some languages, it's worth pointing this out again, Python variables don't have sigils or symbols at the beginning of them. Like in some languages, you would get $ favorite fruit. We don't do that in Python. We just say favorite fruit. You can use variables pretty much anywhere, too. I already used one here in the print function, and I can use them in math as well. So I could do favorite number divided by 4, and I get back 10.5. Now, when we're done with a variable, we might want to get rid of it. This actually isn't all that common in Python, though. Most of the time, we just leave variables alone until we're not using them anymore. And then Python cleans them up for us. Python keeps a count of how many times a variable is referenced or mentioned somewhere. And when that reference count becomes 0, Python just throws the variable away. Sometimes, though, you want to delete the variable yourself. You want to do it explicitly and just get rid of it forever. That's where the del keyword comes into play. So for instance, I can do del favorite number. Nothing comes back. But if I now try to use my favorite number again, I get a name error. And if you remember, a name error is because the name has not been defined. Making variables, as you might have guessed, is something that's really important to be comfortable with. You'll be doing that all throughout this course and your Python career.
All right, good stuff. Short video and to the point. Hopefully you all absorbed that because there will be questions about it. So that video was basically about variables. Variables are just naming things. The name on the left is the variable name, and then you have your equal sign, and then the quotation marks, and then within those quotation marks is another grouping of letters, which is called the value. So the name is on the left, and then what makes that name important, it's the value that's on the right. So again, very, very simple stuff for those of us who've already been doing this, but for those of us who have not been doing it, those of us who are new, or those of us who were just slacking, this might not be so simple. So easy stuff. These are variables. It's where you name things. You'll be using this function all throughout Python, all throughout your coding life, because other languages do the same thing. You have to name things so that the program knows what it is it's supposed to be doing and what it is it's supposed to be displaying on the screen and what not. So that is first video down, talking about variables, variables, variables. Variables are very, very, very important. They're very simple to create, so that's good. But we're going to, since repetition is the mother of all skill, we're going to repeat variables, 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 and the syntax of variables, which just means how to display them, how to type them out so that you don't get an error message in Python. Variables, variables, variables is what we're talking about now. So we're going to go to the next video. Here's my red eye guy. Let's go and get the red eye guy out of the way. You know, that monotone sounding person. We're going to go ahead and listen to this guy here. And he is also talking about variables. I love to learn from multiple people about the same thing because it just helps drive it down deeper into your subconscious and it just into your mind, and you will remember it a lot better, and then you'll be able to recall that information when you need it. For those of us who are Christians or Muslims or Hindus, whatever you are, that's why religious people read their holy books over and over and over again. For example, my mom is a Christian and she reads her Bible every year from cover to cover. She has a set thing. She reads a certain amount of pages, and every year or every week she reads a certain amount of pages. So by the end of the year, she has read through the whole book again. And then when the next year comes, she's going to start over at the beginning and she's going to read it all the way through. I myself consider myself everything. So Christian, Muslim, Hindu, whatever our black people have been, I'm that. So I read all that stuff all the time. I read about math all the time. It helps me remember because repetition is the mother of all skill. If you want to be skilled at something, do it repeatedly. Right? All right. So next one, red eye guy. I'm calling him the red eye guy. That's not his name, but it's okay. That's gonna be his name for my purposes here. Red eye guy coming up. Three, two, one.
So hi and welcome to the third video in the Python 101 video series. And today what we're going to be doing is going over what variables are and how to use them. So actually let's just get started. So the first thing you're probably going to want to know is, what is a variable? So a variable is basically just a placeholder for a value, and it's used in programming quite a lot, and it's in maths as well. So the best way to explain this is probably just with an example. So we could create a variable called my_var, which means my variable. And well, okay, let's actually start. So if you're familiar with something like PHP, you'll know that to create a variable, you type in my_var equals, whoops, my var equals, this is my variable. So this is how you create a variable in PHP, but in Python it's different because, well, it's a different programming language. So in PHP you declare that it's a variable you're going to create because of the $sign. But in Python you don't need to do that. So in Python all I have to do is type in my var equals, I can just say hello world, and we don't need the semicolon because it's Python. So we hit enter. So now what I've done is I've assigned the placeholder, well, it's just a word, my var, the value of hello world. So now whenever I just say print my var, Python knows what I'm trying to print is hello world. So the way declaring a variable works is you give it the placeholder. So if I say num1, which is what I want the variable to be called, then to assign a value in most programming languages, it's just a single equals, and then the programming language knows what's directly after the equals is what you want to assign. So as you can see with the technically this is a sentence, hello world, because there's a space and there's punctuation and things in it. So that shows, or in programming it means basically we have to surround our sentence in single or double quotes, and in programming it's called a string. So whenever you see a string it has to be surrounded in single or double quotes. But with a number, since a number is obviously not a string because there's no spaces in a number and there's no punctuation in a number, all we have to do is type in the name of the number, or the number, directly after the equals. We don't need to include the single quotes or whatever. So as you can see, I've just assigned the value 31 to the variable num1. So now, as before, if I type in print num1, it gives me 31. And variables, you're probably wondering, or you're probably thinking to yourself, they're pretty pointless because, yeah, you can assign our values to them, but when would you ever need it? Why wouldn't you just type in hello world or print hello world? I mean, print my var and print hello world. I mean, well, they're the same thing apart from I left out the exclamation mark, but I mean, you're probably thinking, why would you bother using it in a variable? Because even with the variable, you probably worked out that it was slower because I had to declare the variable up there and then I had to print the variable, whereas here all I had to do was print the word. So, I mean, you're probably thinking there's no advantage, but variables are good whenever you're, well, if you're trying to do a dynamic program, so if you wanted to take input from users or take input from databases and things, you could store the information in variables until you were ready to use it. So it's useful for things like that, and if you were to use the one value over and over, you can just use a variable instead of the one value, so that if you ever wanted to change the value, it will just change automatically for all of the times you use the variable. So as I said, good use of a variable is when you're getting input from a user, so let's try that. So I'll create a variable and call it user, and I'll assign it a function called input, and in here all I'm going to type in is what's your favorite number. So now if I just hit enter, as you can see it says what's your favorite number, because this is what the input function does, and then directly after it all I have to type in is whatever I want. So I can just type in 7 and hit enter, and what it does is it assigns the variable user the value of 7 because you got the input from me. So now if I was just to print user, it gives me 7. And you can add things together with variables. So if I was to add num1, or if I was to just add num1 plus user, it gives me 38 because 31 plus 7 is 38. And if you watch the other videos, you'll know that if I was to add 7 plus 89.4. No way, that's a bad example. If I was to divide 7 by 7 by 8 or 7 by 5, that won't give me an even return. So if I hit enter, it gives me 1, and obviously 7 divided by 5 isn't 1, it's just 1 point something. So and if you watch the maths one, you'll know we have to type in 7.0 divided by 5, and it gives me the real answer, which is 1.4. So with a variable, it's the same. So if I was to type in num1 equals 5, and then num2 equals 6, and then I was to say num2 divided by num1, it gives me 1. So if I have to type in, for this to work, I would have to type in num2 equals 6.0, then I could do num2 divided by num1, gives me 1.2. So you could, oh yeah, I never mentioned you can reassign variables. So if I was to say here num1 equals 1, let's just say 1 for now, and then way down the script I changed my mind and I said num1 should actually have been set to 2. All I have to do is say num1 equals 2, and it will redeclare the variable, or reset its value. But for any code up here that already thinks that num1 is 1, it will still use num1 as, it will still take num1 as 1 until I actually changed it, which is down here. So anything above this will still think num1 is equal to 1. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe, or to comment, like, and subscribe, and subscribe to the show. And my channel, obviously. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll see you next time. So hi and welcome to the
All right, all right. How'd y'all enjoy that video? Hopefully you enjoyed it, mucho. Hopefully you enjoyed it a lot. I'm gonna tell you right now, a lot of the examples used in these videos, I just pull the examples, I extract them right from the video, and I'll put them on the assignment. I might change a number here or a number there, run it through my Python script just to make sure it's accurate, then ask you a true false on it or something like that. But so make sure you all are paying much attention to these videos, because the assignment questions are coming right from them. So moving on, that's, again, we're talking about variables, 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 right? So what are we talking about? Variables, right? Good, good, good. We're not talking about strings yet. We're not talking about booleans. We're not talking about if-else statements. We're not talking about loops. We're talking about variables, because repetition is the mother of all skill. And I've said that phrase repeatedly because I want you all to remember it, because repetition is the mother of all skill. All right? Good, good, good. So we're moving on to our next video, which is cool guy I like to listen to in regards to Python. He has a very extensive course that he has posted on YouTube. But here's one of the videos from that course talking about what variables. So here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Program you ever write. Hello everybody, and welcome to my variables in Python 3 tutorial video. In this video, I will teach you guys about, and girls, about variables, which you will quickly find yourself using extremely frequently, pretty much in every single program you ever write. Variables act as a placeholder for whatever you place in them, and they can be changed. So they are, as you guessed, variable. So let's go ahead and show some examples of these variables. So for starters, let's say we just have example var. So what this is, and how you define a variable in Python, is you just type it out. So variables can have all kinds of fun stuff in them. You can do what's known as camel casing, or you can use, a lot of people will do like example var like this, And a lot of people even capitalize their variables like this. So they use all caps and underscores. Honestly, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. But like I said, a lot of you guys have teachers or whatever, and they get pretty anal about this kind of stuff. So, you know, do whatever they say. But I do camel casing pretty much for everything. I camel case my variables, my functions, pretty much all that stuff. So that is improper by, you know, programming standards. Take that as you will. Anyway, so example var is our variable name, and then you just follow it with equals, and we're just going to say example var equals 55 for now, and then we're going to print out example var. So now let's just save and run that, and sure enough, it prints out 55. You can also have example var equals 55 plus 32. So you can not only have example var equal just something, it can actually equal a quick operation. So we'll do this, 87. And example var can also, check this out, can contain a function. So in this case, we have a very simple function. Ooh, isn't this interesting? Example var equals print, oops, whoa. Imagine Neo as you say whoa. Anyway, so we can do that. So let's run that. And you can see in the definition, it went whoa, and we never actually even had to call example var. But if we call example var again, we get whoa. So now, so you can put functions in there, and you can do some other stuff too that I'll show you guys in just one moment called unpacking. Trying to think if there's anything else. Actually, I think I've covered everything I really want to cover. So let me delete that, and let me show you guys one last part of variables that's pretty integral or useful, and that's going to be unpacking. So when you unpack a variable, what you can do is you could say, like, a common operation would be like coordinates, right? So you could say x comma y equals, and then you could say your coordinates are 3, 5. Okay. Now what that's going to do is it's going to unpack this Python list into x and y. So what you can do now is we can do stuff with our new variables, and in this case let's just print them, run that, and you can see that it prints x, which is 3, and y, which is 5. Pretty neat. But what if you try to do like this? So now you've got 2 variables, but you've got 3 bits of data that you're trying to unpack. You're going to get this error, too many values to unpack. We'll talk about this again in a little bit because I will have a bit of a debugging basics later on. But just take note that it must be equal. Like, you must unpack the same number of variables. So for now, I think that'll cover the introduction of variables and all that. So if you guys have any questions about variables, feel free to post them below. I do respond to the comments. Otherwise, hopefully you guys learned something new. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support and the subscriptions. And until next time. Hello everybody, and welcome to
I think I was muted. Good. So, what are we talking about? Variables, right? Variables. Why are we talking about variables so much? Because repetition is the mother of all skill. And we're trying to be very skillful, full of skill when it comes to Python. So that's awesome. That's wonderful. That's great. I want you all to take note again of the examples used by this gentleman, because those examples might show up again. They just might show up again. So pay much attention to them, please. If 100 is a desired grade and understanding is the ultimate aim for you, make sure you're paying attention to these examples. I'm trying not to have my mouse so close to the mic to where it starts clipping. You can let me know if it's too loud. I mean, this is a recording, so letting me know won't change anything, but it may help me in future videos. So keep me up on that. All right. next one and last one is about the print function and strings. As you can see here, it's not at the beginning, so I might want to go back to the beginning, maybe a few seconds ahead of that advertisement he got going on there. So this one is not talking about variables. This one is talking about the print function, which you've already seen even within the variables videos, because the print function is so basic, it's like breathing. The print function is so basic to Python, it's just like people breathe, you know. We breathe all the time, and we will be printing in Python all the time. So just keep that in mind as I continue to rhyme, because I must be some kind of poet or something. So here we go. This one's about print function and strings. All right, this will be the last video of this class, and then after that, I believe class will probably be just about over. But I want you to take the rest of the time, if there's any time left over, to continue to go through your solo learn. We're going back over the basics, but those of us who are flying through this and who already understand it, I would like for you to be continuing forward on your solo learn Python course march, and continuing to move forward, because that way, if you stay ahead, it won't just be my voice that your peers or the other students here might hear. It'll be you being able to chime in and help them out if they do need help. So that'd be awesome. That'd be great. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Print function and strings.
To the next part, my Python 3 basics series. In the previous video, I was showing you guys how to install, set up, and begin to use your Python installation. And in this video, what we're going to be talking about is the print function. So the print function, for the most part, is kind of like it's mostly used just for debugging, at least the way I use it. Most of the time, I'm using it for debugging purposes to kind of tell me where I am in the script, and then if you're maybe editing variables or making changes along the way, you can print out the changes that are made, just so you know what's like happening under the hood. So it's definitely one of the most common operations and most common functions that you use within Python, and it's what's called a built-in function. So you don't actually have to import anything. So there are some functions that come with your quote-unquote vanilla installation of Python, but some of them need to be imported, like time or math and all this kind of stuff. But print is used so frequently that you actually never have to import the print function at all. In Python 2.7, the print function was a little bit different. It didn't operate like a function, or at least the syntax wasn't like a function. But in 3.3, it's a lot more like a function. So let's go ahead and get to it. So an example of a print function, or any function really, is you call the function name, and then in parentheses you put the function's parameters. Well, with print, what print does is just outputs to console whatever you put in there, and so you usually are going to print a string, but you don't have to print a string. But anyways, so let's just say this is an example of print function. Okay, so we can save that, and typically in my tutorials I do Control S to save, and I hit F5 to run. You can also obviously go File, Save As, or Run. And run module, or file save really. But anyway, that's that. So when like stuff starts popping up when I say, okay, I'm going to save and run it, and you didn't see my mouse do anything, that's why. Anyway, so I'm going to hit F5, it pops up, and you can see that it outputs. This is an example of print function. So pretty basic stuff really. So now let's pop back here, and let's talk about a couple of things real quick, because this is not only going to be the print function, but also just some string rules and all that. So when you put something in between quotes, it's known as a string. I'm having a very hard time saying that. And you can either use single quotes or you can use double quotes. Now there are advantages and kind of disadvantages to each, but for the most part, you'll see me use single quotes. But if you use single quotes and you try to do something like this, and say, let's say we're going to the store, that doesn't work. And if you actually try to run this, you would see this invalid syntax. There are a couple ways around this. One, you could encase everything in double quotes. Then the singular quote within that double quote will be fine. So if we save it this way, we're going to the store. No problem. So the next thing that I'll show you, though, is if you really insisted on doing this, what if you did this? Even though this is a bad example because it's not really what we want, but like let's say instead you were saying, this is my OCD coming out. Anyway, hi. Oh my goodness. Anyway, save, run it, and if we pull this up, that worked, right? You saw how that worked. So it's like a different, so like some people kind of think like double quotes just are more powerful, so they can encase single quotes, but single quotes can encase double quotes. It really doesn't matter. But let's say you want to use single quotes, but then you also want to say, we are going to the store. How would you do that? Well, you use what's called an escape character, which is the backslash. Not to be confused with the forward slash, it's the backslash. So typically it's going to be right above your enter key or your return if you're using like a super old computer. so you can do that. And what it does is it's called an escape character because what it's going to do is it's going to escape any sort of functionality of that character and just leave it as, it's hard to say. I'd have to revisit the rules here, but at least in Python 2, I might be getting them confused, but you've got like in Python 2 you have in Python 2 you have what's known as Unicode, and you've got like 8-bit, whereas in Python 3 you've got text and just like data, right? And so like the rules are kind of different, but basically you're just escaping the functionality here of this. So when we run this, you won't see that nasty little backslash. So let's just go ahead and run it real quick. And you'll see that, yeah, okay, so we're going to the store, and we were able to get away with it with single quotes. So that's just a couple of quick things. So you can do that, but another thing that you can do is what's called concatenation. So what that's going to mean is we're going to put two strings together. So we'll say hi, space, there. So when you use the plus sign in concatenation, it's going to put them directly together. So if you did just hi non-space, you would see hi there, like jammed together. So you would add a space, and obviously that's going to fix it. Let me pull this up a little bit. The other way that you can concatenate things is with a comma. And when you do that with a comma, it's going to add a space. So we'll run it again, hi there. Now, the next thing that you can do is, like I said originally, is you don't have to have strings. You can have a number in there, or an integer. So we'll run that, and this time Python gave us a high five. So you can see that we're able to do that. But what if we had a plus there? Are we going to be able to do that, and is it going to take away our space? I don't know. Uh-oh. So we actually have a problem. It says that we can't convert an int object to a string object because what it's trying to do is it's taking the string and attempting, when you use the plus, to add it to the 5. So conversely, what if we did 5 plus hi? Run that, and now we can see unsupported operand for the integer because you can't add a string to an integer. So you'll see that, oops, I'm getting all over the place. You'll see that they're actually different errors that are reported, but it's pretty much for the same reason. You're trying to put two things together that just don't mesh. So there's a couple of things that you can do. Obviously, you can use the comma, or you can use another built-in function, which would be something like this. So if you want it to you still want to get your high five, you want to add that space, but you really want a plus 5 there, you can use what's called a string conversion here. And that's another thing that's built into Python. You won't actually have to import anything to do that. You can save it, you can run it, and here we have high five. By that same token, if this is, say, 8, and you try to do plus 5, it's still a string, right? A string 8. But you can convert that to, say, an int, save, run, and now you can see it actually printed out the mathematical operation of 8 plus 5. Now, what if we did this? 8.5 plus 5, and we run that. You can see that it gets angry at us because the int 8.5 is not an integer. So the other conversion, since I'm showing you guys conversions, would be float. Save that, run that, and that is okay. Everything is hunky-dory. Python is not angry. So that should cover just kind of like the basics of strings and concatenation and combining it with integers and floats and the conversions when you need to do the conversion and all that. So another time when you might need to use a conversion like this is if you're reading from a data file. Sometimes you might be reading that stuff in as a string format. Same thing if you read from like a website or something like that. A lot of times it's going to come in natively as a string, and you'll need to convert it out of a string to an int or a float if it's a number. So anyway, that should do for kind of like an introduction to this kind of stuff, and really the print function, since that was the main goal, but really print and strings and conversions, and more on ints and actually mathematical, actual mathematical operations, because like stuff like the plus sign is a little bit has quite a few uses. Same thing with the minus sign. So anyways, that's going to conclude this video. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support and the subscriptions. And until next time.
Okay.
You need a
We don't need to see that. All right, good. So we were just talking about, well, I'll let y'all tell me. What was it? What were we just talking about? Who was focused? Who was locked in? We were talking about print functions. Well, let's start with the beginning. The first one was variables, and then we watched 3 videos on variables, so I'm sure we'll all have that down. And then we watched one on the print function, right? And what else? The print function, and did you guess it? Who guessed it? Let's go down and take a look. Strings. Good job, whoever guessed it. All right, look, I think we're up against our mark here, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut it short. Make sure that you all are on the lookout for the next assignment, which will be posted on Thursday, attached to an assignment. This video will be posted, but there will not be an assignment attached to it. The assignment will be posted by Wednesday. Could be earlier than Wednesday, but definitely by Wednesday. So hopefully you all continue to have a wonderful day. I appreciate you all paying attention, and it's been awesome. Hopefully you all are learning. Hopefully you all are having fun. Hopefully y'all went to the Raspberry Pi website. I think it was raspberrypi.org, and check out some of the great things that we're going to be doing, and get some ideas, and even use some of those ideas in your demonstrations, which are coming up very, very soon. So, okay, it's been great, been fun. Hopefully you all had a good time, and I will talk to you all soon. Hotep, peace. Assalamu alaikum. Uncle Jasineb. Peace out.